webinar on native language instruction in an early childhood setting. This is the second collaborative webinar that has been held as an effort between the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Indian Education, and Office of English Language Acquisition, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Administration, Children and Families, American Indian Alaska Native, Office of Head Start, and the Administration for Native Americans. Today's webinar is hosted by the Administration for Native Americans. Before we get started with our webinar, I would like to announce that the funding opportunity announcements for the Administration for Native American Language, Native Language opportunities are out. So if you are interested in applying for either language preservation and maintenance or language Esther Martinez initiative, those FOAs can be found on the ANA website. Back to our webinar. Each of these entities sponsor programs designed to encourage and support the preservation and maintenance of native languages. The Administration for Native Americans, whose vision is Native Communities Are Thriving, is a program located within the Health and Human Services under the Administration for Children and Families. ANA serves all Native Americans, including federally recognized tribes, American Indian and Alaskan Native organizations, Native Hawaiian organizations, and Native populations throughout the Pacific. ANA promotes self-sufficiency for Native Americans by providing discretionary grant funds for community-based projects and training and technical assistance to eligible tribes and Native organizations in 3 program areas: Social and Economic Development Strategies, or SEDS, Native Languages, Preservation and Maintenance, or Esther Martinez Initiative, and Environmental Regulatory Enhancement. You can find more information on the ANA website, which is located at the bottom of your screen. As I mentioned earlier, this webinar is hosted by ANA, and specifically the Eastern Region Training and Technical Assistance Center, a resource of the Administration for Native Americans. We provide free training, both in project planning and development, pre-application and post-award, as well as free technical assistance in project planning and development, pre-application, unfunded applicants, and grantees. For more information, please go to our website, which again is located at the bottom of the page. My name is Rondell Clay. I am a member of the Sistenwapatinoyate. I have been a TA provider for ANA since 2000, and I have 20 years of experience as an early childhood and elementary educator. I will be facilitating only today. We have 3 very, very competent presenters. Our goal today for the webinar is to help ACF and Department of Education grantees address some of the common challenges to implementing native language programs in early childhood settings. The topics that our presenters will address is how can programs use or adapt a non-native curriculum in a language immersion setting, overcoming challenges to parent involvement in Native American language learning, and developing Indigenous heritage language fluency measurements for preschool. Our first presenter today has a grant with the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, Office of Indian Education. The Office of Indian Education administers the Indian education programs which establish policies and provide financial and technical assistance to support LEAs, Indian tribes and organizations, post-secondary institutions, and other entities in meeting the special educational and cultural-related academic needs of American Indian and Alaska Native students. Programs that Indian Ed oversees include the formula grants to LEAs and 3 discretionary grant programs: professional development for teachers, demonstration grants to improve the opportunities and achievement of Indian students, and national research activity grants. Our first presenter is Waduka Dotting. Waduka Dotting has a demonstration grant for Indian children. This program is designed to improve the educational opportunities and achievements of preschool, elementary, and secondary schools for Indian children by developing testing and demonstrating effective services and programs. Our presenter today is from the Hayward Community School Districts, the Waduka Dotting Ojibwe Language Immersion Charter School, Ms. Brooke Ammon. She is the director of Waduka Dotting. Brooke?
Bonjour. Neogabu Ikwain the Jinikas, Brooke Mose Amani Dash Nindigo Shaganashimung, Migazi and Dudame. I work at the Waduka Dotting Ojibwe Language Immersion Charter School, and I'm here to talk today about teaching the Ojibwe language in an early childhood setting. And we are representing an immersion early childhood setting. Waduka Dotting is a Wisconsin public charter school. We started in the Lakoutere community as a survey grant project. We have a lot of signs and things that are named in their original Ojibwe language in our community because of that, and it kind of sparked the move to start a school, an immersion school. Our school exists because our Wisconsin public charter school law has a section that allows for a school to be chartered through a local school district in partnership with a tribe, and then the school can be located on the tribal land. So we're authorized by the Hayward Community School District through partnership with the Lakoutere Tribal Governing Board, and we are actually physically located on the Lakoutere Ojibwe School campus and the tribal complex on the reservation near Hayward, Wisconsin. Our school board is made up of different community members, educators, and different people from the community. This our preschool started as a language nest class in the Tribal Child Care Center. And it started with 8 students, and we currently have 53 students in the preschool through 4th grades. We usually do have a 5th grade class, but we just don't have students in that grade this year. And our goal is to, in the coming years, grow to 8th grade. We have money from, our funding comes from a variety of sources listed on the slide. The state of Wisconsin, there are no budgeting provisions for charter schools. We get passed through of federal funds or otherwise supported by grants, fundraising, and donations. And that's why you see a long list. Most of our work, in addition to trying to develop curriculum and develop our actual teaching program and staff, is trying to find money to continue. So I'm answering some of the questions that we were asked to ponder here, and one of them was about non-native curriculum and language immersion. So an important thing to know about Waduka Dotting is that this is not just a language experience. Our language isn't a class at the school. It's learned through our staff and community efforts to create an environment that's conducive to language learning, including, modeling gestures and really acting out things, reading in the language, breaking down stories, using a cross-content approach to vocabulary building. And we also give our students a chance to experience Ojibwe cultural practices. We spend a lot of our resources, including our community members, our time, our money, our equipment, to make sure that we have the capacity to take our children out to do things like gathering and processing wild rice, maple syrup, fish, fur-bearing animals, things like that our grandparents did to feed themselves. And just today, this is our children have been going out with snowshoes. We make sure to get each one of them a pair of snowshoes, and they set snares for rabbits this week. And today, 2 of our first graders snared a rabbit, so it's pretty exciting. It was a happy day. We will process that fur, and we're going to make something out of the fur, and we're going to have rabbit soup next week. So the other thing about us is our staff are primarily second language learners, and they haven't all had a chance to learn how to do those kinds of things. They do require professional development in these cultural practices and the vocabulary required to do these activities. This picture, you see one of our kindergartners. He is parching wild rice. That's what's in that big kettle. So like it says, our language is a language of action. We do things and we observe. So we always try to think about what are we teaching our kids by what we do and how we do it. After a number of years, we're working with a real focus initially was on language and developing words for academic use. And then, the clock is ticking. We have only so many speakers. And then it was the same as it is now. So one of the things we did was we kind of pulled back and make sure that we redefined what we were doing. And one of those, like a statement or a statement of purpose we created in 2007, the Weni Jana Sajig Omazana Inigwa, and that is the cultural pathways for Anishinaabe education success. We developed those by looking at models, especially the Na Honua Maoli Ola from Hawaii. And ever since I started working here, we always take time to take a step back and make sure that we are sticking to the things we identified as being important for our children's education. And that's these are the 7 important values that we identified as a group. It was a group of staff and parents and elders and first speakers. So when we develop curriculum or we look at other curriculum that is used for different grades, we judge it by how does it meet these standards. And we also do a lot of work with the community and adults, so we have to make sure these values are in that curriculum as well. So our preschool is a full-day total immersion program for 3- and 4-year-old children. There's no English used in this classroom. So we do use, like the slide says, we kind of pull from different, I guess, more mainstream curriculum for our different grades. But having a statement of purpose and our values defined helps us decide, is this something we could translate or does it not fit? So that does take a lot of work, but I would say that it's really important to make sure that there's cultural knowledge, because a second language learner that doesn't have a cultural experience along with it, we know that it can feel a little empty to know a lot of words but not to really feel connections to them. So we really want to make sure that our children see the world through an Ojibwe perspective rather than trying to filter the Ojibwe through a sieve of an English-speaking worldview. So challenges to parent involvement was another one of the topics we're going to discuss today. We kind of look at it more as cultivating community commitment rather than just focus on parents, because that's kind of a non-Ojibwe way of looking at a family. So some of the things we've tried over the years that have worked are community language tables. We do an extensive interview at the beginning of preschool. We have a lot of contact with our families. You know, we have a lot of grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins. We have a lot of families and extended families, I guess you'd call them, enrolled at the school as well. Other things like as far as activist attitude change and acceptance, our teachers are mostly second language learners and they're real activists. They have to do a lot of work to be able to speak and to be teachers in this kind of classroom. So I try to just remind them, because it can be disheartening when parents and families don't take the initiative or take steps to get to be speakers, but I try to get them to think about it that the parents are giving us their kids to make them into second language speakers, and we have to start with that, and we have to respect that first. But we also need to work really hard not to become too negative towards our families that may not be as involved in the language learning, because this is really hard work, and it's really easy in language learning to kind of get mired in lateral violence toward our fellow people. So we really work hard to try and keep ourselves out of that. And that's kind of the last point there about non-language focused school and community gatherings. Sometimes we found our families get intimidated knowing that there's so many people speaking Ojibwe, and they're afraid. They can be really afraid to be a part of that because they think if they don't speak Ojibwe that we're not going to talk to them or whatever. So we do plan things where we make sure it's like fun and social, like a round dance or celebrations of learning and things like that. But this is still a problem. Like I'm always interested to learn from others as well, things they do for addressing this challenge. Over the years, we've struggled with measuring fluency, and in terms of measuring fluency in a preschool immersion setting, that's a difficult one because most of our students come from English-speaking homes, and this 6 hours a day for the school year that they get, it's mostly input. They don't do a lot of higher level speaking. That usually comes in first and second grade if they started in the preschool. That's when they really start coming up with their own, I guess, thoughts and sentences and things like that that you measure. But we did look at a lot of models, and we also did modify some of the tests that we use for models to make our own. We also wanted to make sure that we have a scale that really accurately measures language growth. We have Ojibwe is a really complex language, I suppose, like many, but some of the ways that the scales, the ACTFL scales, for example, assess language fluency, they're not as exacting as we would like them to be. They don't really reflect some of the sentence structures or word order or conject forms that exist in Ojibwe that we want them to assess because we'd like to have a better practice. We'd like it to inform our teaching so that we can start to make sure that they have access to knowing how to express themselves in that way. And then there were things in these proficiency assessment models that just weren't culturally or linguistically appropriate. So we adjusted them, and that's where we made that. It's called a gungos, and that means chipmunk, a little talker, a little fast talker. So that's what we did, and we continue to assess. We assess at preschool, and we go all the way through. Our work now is, as we consider going further in higher grades, we have to have a way to assess their written fluency as well. We also do other assessments like PALS, which is wildly inappropriate for our preschool since they are not learning English and it's in English. We do the social skills inventory system, which we've all found to be quite useful. The majority of our challenges in preschool are social skills development, and we do really whatever assessment we have to meet state requirements or grant demands, but we recognize they're not quite appropriate for the language immersion classroom. And I guess our goal moving forward is to further develop appropriate assessments that provide a means by which we can translate our student success into something, like people who might not understand this type of education can understand. So that's, I guess, our challenge as well. And that's Miigwech Bizendawiyeg. Thank you for listening to me. These are some of our current kids and their work. And that's it for me.
Great. Thank you so much, Brooke. If you could stay on the line with us, we'll have question and answers after the other two presenters.
Okay, I'll be here.
Great, thanks. Okay, so I hope everybody can hear me better now. I have the microphone right in front of me. And like I said, thank you for typing in your questions. We'll get to those questions at the end of the presentation. We're going to move on now to our next presenter. Our next presenter is a grantee from the Office of English Language Acquisition. OELA has several programs and initiatives it supports. National Professional Development Program, Native American and Alaska Native Children in School Program, the Foreign Language Assistance Program, and the English Language Acquisition State Grants Program. You can find out more about OELA at the website that is listed on this page. we are going to hear next from Mr. Brian Mathers, who is a project coordinator with the Early Language Initiative, which is a project that is funded by OELA at the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. Brian, you are unmuted, so you can take it away.
Okay, thanks, Rondell. Yeah, like she said, we're here in Nebraska today. We got all our snow out of the way early this morning. It's clearing up now, so we think we're going to be able to make it home. And we're happy to get to talk about not only the ELA project, but how that fits in with another exciting early childhood initiative that's underway at our Tribal Education Department now. And as ours differs a little bit from the project that Brooke described, and that ours does come from the Office of English Language Acquisition. So English language is a focus of ours, as well as a focus on teaching our preschoolers the tribal traditional language, which for us is Ho-Chunk. So here with me today is Darla LaPointe, who is our education director for all the tribal education programs, and Natalie Earth, who is the education administrative assistant for the tribe, and she's also a liaison to the Native language community that's playing a vital role in the ELI project. And from another location, but also plugged in today, is our lead evaluator for the ELI project, which is Lisa St. Clair from the University of Nebraska Medical Center. She can actually talk in real time with us, but she can, during the Q&A session, participate if you guys have specific questions related to the evaluation. So ours is a really, really collaborative project. There's lots of moving pieces to it, and there's lots of participating collaborators that are helping us pull this project together. The Winnebago Tribe is the grantee here. Educare of Winnebago is a relatively new 501c3 organization that I'll talk about a little bit further in the presentation, and they play a key and pivotal role in the ELI project. The Nebraska Educational Services Unit is helping to coordinate some of the evaluation pieces for the project, and the University of Nebraska Medical Center is actually the key evaluation partner, and they'll be coordinating all aspects of that, both for the ELI project and for the broader Educare initiative that's going to be going on here. Little Priest Tribal College is a local secondary education institution that will be helping us with pieces, delivering some of the new tools that we hope to develop to teach the Ho-Chunk language to preschoolers. And then obviously our main funding partner for this is the Office of English Language Acquisition and their Native American Children in Schools program. Our project is, the timing of the ELI project is really great for us, because it's allowing us to integrate within an initial or an ongoing education initiative here the language and cultural elements that we didn't really have a fully developed plan or resources to do. But what we're going to be basically fusing the ELI project with or into is the Educare of Winnebago project that's going to open here in just a few weeks. And ours is actually going to be the first Educare project in the nation that's going to open and operate in Indian country. And what we'll do is basically we'll use the resources and guidance of the ELI project to help us infuse within the more standardized Educare curriculum our traditional language here and some cultural elements as well. And the English language initiative, or the early language initiative's emphasis on language, literacy, and cultural identifiers, all intended here to focus on our native language and also to help increase English acquisition and overall school readiness for our 0 to 5-year-olds. So it's kind of a daunting challenge. The Educare project, getting that up and ready to operate, is an education department initiative that's been underway for many years. So we're very excited to have the opportunity to actually move forward with that and add these additional cultural elements. The target population for our project is basically, it's going to be all of the Educare of Winnebago participants. And our population has been defined by, as we're moving towards the Educare model, we're combining our pre-existing Head Start program with our pre-existing 0 to 3 infant and toddler program, and they'll both become Educare of Winnebago, and all of those children, which will work up towards, or not quite there yet, but will work up towards 190 slots per year in those programs, and those will all be 0 to 5 kids from our community here. And traditionally, this target population has had some challenges entering kindergarten as far as their ability to score at or above the national means testing on language literacy and school readiness standards. So our hope is that by providing this early infusion of language and literacy and all of the other benefits of the Educare model and the ELI program, we can better align those kids' skills with the national standards by the end of the 5-year project period. This is just a rendering of the architect's rendering of the new Educare facility that is under construction and that we will be planning to move into either later this month or more likely early next month. And it's going to have how many classrooms? 16. It will have a total of 16 classrooms for those 190 slots, and that will be, as I said, a combination of infant and toddler slots and Head Start area or Head Start age classrooms. So I think it's kind of integral to the project to understand a little bit about what Educare really is and how the Early Language Initiative is going to be integrated into that. And many of you may already be familiar with Educare, but it's basically a program that's been researched well at a number of different sites across the country. I think currently there's 25 to 30 sites either under construction or already up and operating. And it focuses on preschool age kids, at-risk kids, and their main focus is on helping to eliminate the school readiness deficits that are evident nationwide for low-income kids and kids with other challenges. As I said, ours will be a new initiative for the tribe, and ours will be the first one in the country operating in Indian country. The next slide will tell us a little bit more about specifics of the Educare model. They focus on full-day, full-year services. That will be a difference for us. And they have also a very high staff-to-child ratio and small class sizes so that kids get a lot of individualized attention. There's high training standards for teachers and lots of professional development for them. This is all part of the nationally standardized Educare model. There's a strong emphasis on language and literacy focus for the preschool curriculum and activities. And the ELI project really allows us to build that component of the Educare model. We have had an ongoing Ho-Chunk language learning initiative going on with the tribe, and it currently will continue to operate, but it focuses on Head Start age up through adults, and it's quite broad across the community, but not terribly deep. So this will allow us to give a little more emphasis to our 0 to 5-year-olds on these things. The Ho-Chunk Renaissance program is the language learning program that's currently operating across the community here, and they will continue to come in and participate in the early childhood classrooms, but they will supplement the broader ELI language and literacy components that will be built into the curriculum of our early learning school here. The other thing consistent with Educare across all the Educare schools that are operating is their emphasis on social and emotional development for kids. And that reminds me of something, too, that was said in the earlier presentation, and that is that we also recognize that for early learners especially, our model can't just be language and literacy. You know, it's got to be action. It's got to be integrated into the activities of the classroom. We have to be able to reach out to the parents and the community and involve them in that as well. So we you know, some of those elements are consistent here as well. Another thing that we provide is reflective supervision for instructors. Currently, our instructors are not necessarily, or even to any great extent, Ho-Chunk fluent. So we need to help build their fluency as well and help provide them some ongoing professional development and feedback in how they're doing in operating their classroom and how they're doing at integrating the Ho-Chunk language and cultural elements of the ELI project. Family engagement is another piece of the Educare model, and we'll be building that into the ELI project as well by helping to make some of the language learning tools that we develop for kids available to parents so that they can reinforce them at home, by having after-school programming for both educational and cultural events that parents and children can participate in together. And basically just, you know, helping families become more actively engaged in the education and development of their kids. And the last bullet point here has to do with program evaluation. A robust program evaluation is a key component of and a requirement of Educare nationally. And our ELI project evaluators from UNMC have been already involved in Educare evaluation through the Educare projects that have been opened up in Omaha. So we're happy to have them on, and that will be a real benefit to the project as well. So the key strategies for the project that we are going to build into ELI are to work on developing the language skills of staff. We have some immersion training planned for them. We also have access to fluent speakers that can help them you know that they're saying the words correctly, that they're using the concepts correctly. The elders and other fluent speakers will actually be coming into the classroom, and even if they're not necessarily helping deliver lessons, they'll be there to interact with the kids and share with them their cultural wisdom and their knowledge of the language. Just kind of help build that so that they're learning those things in the atmosphere of Ho-Chunk being present all the time and not just, you know, a period of the day that we set aside to work on Ho-Chunk. We'll integrate it into the day-to-day activities in the classroom. We're also further developing and implementing a language curriculum that features Ho-Chunk learning that's appropriate to the developmental levels of the various classrooms, and helping create some multimedia games and apps and worksheets and activities and other learning tools for the classroom instructors to use, which we then, as we mentioned, will also make available to the parents for continuation at home. We'll integrate games and stories and crafts and ceremonies, activities, and things like that into the classroom so that it is, in fact, active learning, and it's not just, you know, sitting and learning letters and doing flashcards and things like that, but it teaches the language in the context of the cultural activities that it relates to. And then we'll engage parents as language and cultural teachers for their children, and we'll be planning and delivering parental outreach and family activities, and making a lot of resources available to parents so that they can participate in language learning for their kids as well. This is the original logic model that was submitted for our project, and I only included that because I think it just does show a nice summary of the basic activities that were planned and what our expected outcomes are. You'll see there's lots of evaluation requirements that are associated with this, and one of the requirements of the the Department of Ed grant source is that we utilize, to the extent available, standardized tests that are already in place. So that's what we've done to the extent that we can. We'll be looking at doing some things like the Bracken overall school readiness scores and pulling some of the language and literacy things out of that. The Ames Web testing is already being done by our school system at kindergarten entry, so we'll continue to do that and hopefully be able to show some progress and some increases in those measures over the period of time that we're working on. Since Head Start is one of our programs that is sort of going to fall now under the umbrella of both EduCare and ELI, Head Start is also very evaluation intensive, and those assessments and measures that have been going on with them will continue as well. So I think we're going to have lots of rich data to show, as well as the additional ones that our evaluators are going to do that look at, you know, just classroom management and how effective are the instructors at integrating the Ho-Chunk language and literacy components into their curriculum and into their classroom activities, and what type of feedback and participation from parents are we getting, those types of things. So we think that we'll have lots of ongoing data and assessment that will help us do lots of continuous quality improvement for the project and kind of help us improve as we go. This is a 5-year project, but as I said, it's a challenging time right now because we're moving into this whole new model of EduCare at the same time that we're building the ELI components. So there's many things for us to learn as we go through the project, but we're excited to have our partners on board and the resources to roll this out, and we think it can make a real difference in the learning futures of our kids. There's a contact information for the people that are sitting in today, and they'll be available during the Q&A. So we're going to pass it back to you, Rondell.
Thank you so much, Brian. Great presentation. It'll be interesting to see how your program fares as you get going.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on. Our next presenter has a program from the Office of Head Start. And as we all know, Head Start is a federal program that promotes school readiness for children ages birth to 5 for low-income families by enhancing their cognitive, social, and emotional development. Head Start programs provide comprehensive services to children and their families, and those services include health, nutrition, social services, and other services determined necessary by the Family Needs Assessment. In addition, there's, of course, education and cognitive development that occurs in the classrooms, and the overall services at each of the programs are designed to be responsive to the individual child and family's needs, as well as their cultural and linguistic heritage. As I said, our next presenter, Ms. Barbara Buckshot-Jock, is from the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe in upstate New York. She is the director of the Head Start program, and I will let her introduce her fellow presenters. She has some of her team members, Head Start team members, with her. Barbara, you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually the director for the Early Childhood Development Program, which is comprised of the Head Start program, the Center-Based Child Care Program, Home-Based Child Care Program. We have a CCDF subsidy program and an Early Intervention Referral component. I am with Erin Lewis, who is our Education Supervisor for both Head Start and Child Care, and Wanda Jacobs, who is our Cultural Coordinator for the program as well. The St. Regis Mohawk tribe's early childhood development program is under the Division of the Education under the tribe. One of the questions was how is our program adapting the non-native curriculum into the language immersion. We don't have our program is not immersed. We do have Wanda, who's our cultural coordinator, who spends her time in each of the classrooms during the week. She tries to go into each classroom and doing issues providing the culture and the language when she goes into each of the classrooms. And we have 9 classrooms here from infants to our 4 Head Start classrooms. The curriculum we're using for our cultural curriculum, the foundation, which is our Thanksgiving address. And our Thanksgiving address is our message of peace and appreciation for Mother Earth. These are the words of thanks that are spoken each morning to all living things by the Haudenosaunee. So we're using this Thanksgiving address as the basis for our cultural curriculum. And our language is learned by hearing, speaking, by word recognition, and through singing within our program. At this age, obviously, they're not learning how to read and write, but they can recognize words once we see them in the classroom. I just kind of wanted to stress that it's really important. Wanda has participated in the Child Development Associate coursework, and this has really been a real asset for her to learn the creative curriculum which we're using in our program. I'll have Erin explain what the foundation of the creative curriculum is.
The creative curriculum is theory and research based, and it helps the teachers understand the developmental and learning stages of the children. It helps the teachers guide their lesson plans and ensure that they're using developmentally appropriate practices in teaching the children. And it allows for the teachers to really individualize their planning based on the children's strengths and needs. The children are assessed 4 times a year, and we can tailor the curriculum to meet their needs. Class is used to monitor the teacher-child interactions within the classrooms, just to ensure that the relationships between the children and the teachers are appropriate, and that the teachers are, doing the best things that they can do to help the kids in the classroom. Our learning environment is set up into different learning areas. All the materials in the classrooms, the toys, the block area, the kitchen area, it's all labeled in English and in Mohawk, so that the children are being exposed to it, the written words. What children learn are focused in 4 areas of development: social and emotional, physical, language, and cognitive development. And it's aligned with the school readiness goals. When the children move on to the other schools, we try and tailor our program so we try and make a seamless transition when they leave our program. We're trying to prepare them as best we can for the school environment. So the caring and teaching, teaching intentionally go hand in hand in providing this social environment and for promoting social skills, as well as for promoting the language development. And then that important, like what was reiterated by the other 2 panelists, is that a lot of the parent partnership is really important, as well as helping to support the language by having the parents and the grandparents come in that are Mohawk speakers as well. So this is how our curriculum is set up. We're ensuring we're using the creative curriculum. We're ensuring our school readiness. And if you want to go to the next slide, please. And so in following along with the curriculum, this is how we're measuring how effective our language is. And Wanda's
Wanda can explain how we're following along with these little measures.
Our culture curriculum aligns with the Head Start Child Development and Early Learning Framework and language development, and we use the creative curriculum from infancy to 5 years old. The way we measure how well the curriculum is working is by following along with the approaches to learning domain.
So that would be initiative and curiosity, persistence and attentiveness, and cooperation.
And we focus on the language development domain.
That was receptive language and expressive language.
The literacy, knowledge, and skills domain.
Book appreciation and knowledge, phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, print concepts and conversations, and early writing.
Creative arts expression domain.
And our focus here is music, creative movement and dance, art, drama,
and social studies, knowledge, and skills domain.
And our focus is on self, family and community, people and the environment, and history and events. I wanted to point out that labeling is really helpful in the children's environment because it shows the children that reading is not only about fun stories, it can be meaningful and helpful by labeling our learning centers, labeling pictures and all the materials in the environment, our cubbies. The children will learn to recognize the word and its purpose, as well as the actions like as simple as going to breakfast or lunch or nap time. Everything is labeled within the environment. You'll see we'll label the library area as well. And this is just a picture of one of our socials. One of our community partners that comes into our program once a month is the Freedom School. Our Freedom School is a school that has kindergarten up to grade 9, which is they are a full immersion school environment. But the children will come in once a month, and they'll come in and have a social, and they'll sing our traditional songs and teach the children how to dance. So it's children teaching children. So we have that community connection and reinforcement of our culture and our songs. Ways in which we overcome challenges to parent involvement in the language learning are by ensuring we are inviting all our parents to join all of our cultural activities, inviting parents to volunteer in the classroom, sharing weekly Mohawk words. This is done by posting in our main hallway and sending our Mohawk words home, so it's reinforced in the home. By sharing knowledge of language and culture through our monthly newsletter, which we put our legends, our stories in there as well, and through our parent meetings. So as I mentioned earlier, one of our community partners is the Akwesasne Freedom School. If anyone's interested in getting more information on our Freedom School, I put up the web link there, as well as our Akwesasne Library and Cultural Center, which is within walking distance. It's less than 5 minutes. It's the next building over. And the children participate in the library, in the reading circles, and our history is in the Cultural Center. In case any of the staff need any resources, they can go there. And we have, we're just beginning a partnership with the Akwesasne Economic Development Agency, which is right now working with our program to tailor a language program that will be accessible to each of the offices and in the classroom. And what what she's doing. Her name is Karen Mitchell. She's right now she's coordinating a language program that is more age appropriate for our children here, for infants to 5-year-old. And I understand she's almost finished with it, and we're going to be able to utilize the programming at each computer. Each of the classrooms have computers, so the children will have access to it as well. And we also have a foster grandparent program where we have our dodas in each of our Head Start classrooms that speak the language and provide that history and that oral language that they can hear every day. We're also getting our support from the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe's language instructor, Carol Ross, and she's going to be very hands-on in helping us to promote language skills. She already has language classes, and that's our presentation.
Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate it. Elvira Sargent from Akwesasne Freedom School gives you all kudos over the question and answer board, so I'll let her chime in. Akwesasne Freedom School happens to be an A&A grantee, just like Waduka Dotting. I have to put my A&A pitches in there for everybody. I want to thank our 3 presenters, Brooke Amon, Brian Mathers, and Barbara Buckshot-Jock. We really appreciate learning about the unique programs that each of you have. We are going to move on to our question and answer period. Got a little graphic here that if you're on the phone or have a headset with a microphone, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you and allow you to ask your questions verbally. For those of you who don't, and there are many of you who have already started typing questions in, please continue to add your questions. We will try to go through them. We have already gone 10 minutes past our allotted time for this webinar, but we are going to continue with the question and answer period. Hopefully you all will be able to stay with us, but if you can't, thank you for joining us. Before we do, we have webinars coming up that ANA hosts each week on Thursdays. The next one is what to expect when applying electronically. That's going to be held next week, Thursday, and it's basically a tutorial on grants.gov. So just to let you know, just in case you're leaving us, let's go to the question and answer period. I'm going to start with questions that have been typed in, and then I'll move over to attendees who have raised their hands. Okay, our first question, and this is for Brian. I'm going to unmute all of our presenters so that you can feel free to talk. Brian, are the 125 Educare of Winnebago Early Language Initiatives animated videos and games made available to other school districts?
We haven't developed those yet. No, that's just what our target is for getting that many developed over the course of the 5 years, and we're just in the process of creating those.
Will they be available once you get them created?
Likely, yes. And then we definitely would make them available to the local schools where our kids go when they leave, preschool. But if other people were interested in those, yes.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much, Brian. Okay, this one, who is driving the cultural connection between the tribe and or parents? Would parents not send children if not for the cultural element? I'm trying to remember who was talking when this particular question was on, I think it was you, Brian.
Okay. Well, yeah, the parents would send their kids to preschool regardless, but we would just like to engage the parents a little bit more actively than that, and let the parents know, that they're welcome to come to the new facility, either during classroom times or special events or after school or whatever, and that the cultural events that we coordinate and offer during those times will be open to all the kids' families. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure if it does.
Sounds like it to me. Any other thoughts on that question from Barbara or Brooke?
We feel that the parents are driving the need for more immersion in child care, Head Start, and the school, because the parents recognize the language loss and they want it back.
Great. Okay, Brooke, this next question is for you. Do you have non-native children involved in the Ojibwe program?
Well, we are a public charter school, so we're open to everyone we have room for. We currently, our non-native student population is 1%. We have one child. And she actually was one that set the snare today and got a rabbit. So we welcome them, and her mother is not Ojibwe, and she is an active second language learner.
Oh, fantastic. This is a question that could go out to any of you all. Do you feel that language, learning the native language supports English language development? Any thoughts on that from anyone? And Lisa, I do have you unmuted, so you can chime in if you'd like.
Well, I know from our research, and also, this is Brooke, from our experience, that we know that people who learn multiple languages, they have an easier time learning multiple ones. Research shows they have, a greater capacity cognitively. Just, their brains are actually building and developing at this age, so they have really, they're building their language centers. So we know that that's true. And we also, I think it's, it does show up in their reading and their English language skills as they get older. So into the, 5th grade, we have a very good measured English language skills, even though we start them off with little to no English. So we have that, and then we also have, our kids are in 8th grade now, the ones that first started. So I think our goal is also to do a little more research and kind of track what happens with them and their scores and things like that in mainstream circumstances.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Brooke. Here we have a statement and a question. It says, our tribe is very poor, and when the main issue is putting dinner on the table, being involved in community projects is a luxury. We had hoped for a good response, but despite different efforts, few are interested in participating, although they want their children to learn the language. Any ideas on how they might get more involvement? I'll throw that out to any of you.
Well, right away I thought about our ADA program that is has designed the CAN8 program, which can be accessed online through your computer. If they have computers at home, they can access the Can8 program, and learn the language right at home if they're not able to communicate in a community or in school.
Fantastic. Any other ideas from our other presenters?
Well, where Watercrossing is located, we're in the second poorest county in the state of Wisconsin, and like our language tables, we always feed people, and we always ask people to bring food, and we provide the main item, like the meat or the vegetables or something like that. And we also have had times where we had our local food distribution, like the tribal commodities, do nutrition presentations and nutrition ed, and they'll bring food as well. Sometimes that's an incentive for people to show up because everybody enjoys not having to cook all the time or cook for their whole family. So that's one way that we try to engage. We eat. Every time we do something, we eat. Every time we do, but that's kind of a cultural practice as well that, we're so excited about snaring this rabbit. It's like not the biggest one. It's not going to feed everyone, but we're just so excited that our kids have an ability to procure their own food. It's like a lot of our practices do that. And so that's not solving all the problems, but it is an incentive for people to participate and families to participate.
Great. Thank you, Brooke. And this one goes to Barbara. What has been your experience with a Head Start monitoring review for programs with home language immersion?
Well, with home language immersion, if a child or the classroom teacher is speaking only Mohawk, they can't be assessed like through class. I believe that the monitor has to be fluent in the language as well. Does that answer the question?
Nina, if you wouldn't mind providing a little more information, that was your question. If you can type in some more and we'll come back to you, I'd appreciate it. Okay, we'll come back to that, Barbara.
Okay.
Next question, and I believe this still goes to you. What language is used in the components for language and literacy focus? And I guess I'm not understanding the question very well. If Diane, if you could clarify what exactly you're asking there, because depending, go ahead.
I think it would depend on who's instructing. If Wanda goes into the classroom, she's obviously going to use the Mohawk. And if it's the other teachers, they'll be using English.
Okay, great. Thank you. Back to Head Start. The curriculum, the culture/language curriculum was developed by the curriculum coordinator. Is that correct?
Well, we originally thought about the Thanksgiving address that it should become the foundation for our cultural curriculum. But we also looked at our ceremonies that we have during the year, and we followed along with the ceremonies and what those ceremonies mean. And so it created themes and sub-themes. And that's how we follow along with the curriculum.
Great. Thank you. For Barbara, again, what does CLASS stand for? You had talked about CLASS as one of the components.
I forget what each individual letter stands for.
It talks about the teacher-child interaction, and Erin, you want to explain that a little bit more?
I forget what each of the individual letters stand for, but it's a tool that we can use to go into the classrooms to observe. We observe the kids, we observe the teachers, we observe both their interactions. And it just helps us. It's a tool to help the teachers to ensure that they're doing what the developmentally appropriate practices for the kids. We're ensuring that the classroom is set up in an appropriate way, that everything is labeled. It's a tool that we can use to assess the teachers, basically.
Oh,
this
great.
is Lisa in Omaha. I don't know if you can hear me, but I can add a little bit to that if you'd like.
Yep, sure.
Okay. The CLASS is the Classroom Assessment and Scoring System. It comes out of the University of Virginia.
There you
and
go.
What we're using in preschool, which is the same one I'm sure you're using, measures emotional support, instructional support, and
Yep.
classroom organization. There's also an infant and a toddler version. But it gives us powerful data that looks at teacher change over time. Are they scaffolding language for children? Are they asking why questions and asking children to critically think? And we're intending to use our class videos as we're recording those and rating those changes of teacher and child interaction practices. We're also wondering how to infuse language into that, the teacher's use of Ho-Chunk, et cetera. So you can do a lot with those, the CLASS tool, and I would encourage you all to think about how that might impact your programs.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have a question for Brooke. In regards to the assessment difficulties for your program, what other steps or what processes are you looking into? What is your student-teacher ratio for each grade? I've got a lot of questions here for you, Brooke. Why don't we take them one at a time and go back to the assessment difficulties in your program?
Okay.
Go ahead.
What is the question about?
The question is, in regards to your assessment difficulties, what other steps or what processes are you looking into to help you with that, with those difficulties?
Well, one of our projects that we're looking at, I mentioned some of the language structures and the scales that we were, I guess, modifying to make sure that when we are teaching them and exposing them to language, that they're exposed to many of those as models. And I would say our project we're kind of working on right now and we're planning is what is the equivalent of, I guess, a scope and sequence for an Ojibwe language arts program, starting with, you know, preschool. Eventually, I think we'd like to also take in younger children, but to look at a parallel to the English-focused scales and the English-focused, like a language art and language and literacy program through all the different grades. And then we have many, many different readers that we've developed with in Ojibwe, both as translated and original works that our teachers create. We have all these books we've created, and while we expose the preschoolers to print and reading in Ojibwe constantly, I think we want to figure out what we expect children in different grades to be able to read in Ojibwe as well. So that's one thing we're working on, is really setting up a structure for the whole school from preschool to really 8th grade right now is how we're trying to look at it, even though we don't have those grades yet, of what do we expect, what different types of language do we expect children at each of those grades to be able to speak, identify, and read and write.
Cool. A couple of questions. One, Barbara, what is your student-teacher ratio for each of the grades?
Our infant classroom is 1 to 3. We have a Wadler room with crawling, mobile infants. It's 1 to 4. Our toddlers 1 to 5, and our preschool groups are 1 to 7.
Brooke, you?
Over time, we have found, because our children are from second language homes, that the ideal ratio is 1 adult speaker to 5 children. So we try to maintain that for the preschool. As we get into higher grades with higher levels of understanding, we try to keep it 1 to 10.
Okay, cool. And in relation to adding higher grade levels into your programs, have either or any of you experienced any problem with teacher retention?
This is Brian. We've just had a bit of a challenge just getting enough teachers to manage our expansion into more classrooms and looking for the additional credentials, and not to mention the language capacity. So yeah, it's been difficult.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brian. All right, we're getting down towards the end. We have a couple more questions. What type of activities do you do with infants to help solidify language during the language formation years? I'll throw that out to all of you.
Music and finger plays.
Cool. Anybody else? Okay. Any more insights about creating a process for creating a culturally appropriate and linguistically rich curriculum?
I guess from Brooke, from our perspective, is like I just talked about, developing an Ojibwe language arts program, or a scope and sequence for that. That itself is connected to culture, because some of the things that we look for in English language don't necessarily apply. For example, in Ojibwe, we've realized that there's not a lot of opportunity for rhyming. We use a lot of prefixes and suffixes that are the same for different root verbs. So some of those things don't apply. And then there's also different types of speech making and different types of language, ceremonial and the school language, and also just slang, I guess, conversational. So we've been really fortunate. One of the parents in our school is a Ojibwe linguist. So we've been exploring what types of speech that we're aware of that exist, and then what is Ojibwe particular, like what do we value about our speakers. So it's a little bit culture and a little bit, linguist, a mixture. So we decide, what do we want our speakers to sound like?
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate that. And one last question before we close. Can you provide examples of pre-literacy or early writing activities if a tribe doesn't have a written language? I don't know if any of you feel comfortable addressing that issue. No?
I don't really understand the question.
I guess they're looking for what kind of activities you can do with children to encourage writing if the language isn't a written language.
Well, in your art activities, you can reinforce the pre-writing skills by putting the paint on the left side, so they're going from left to right. That's an art activity that can be used, as well as learning each letter of their name. Those would be considered pre-writing skills.
Oh, that's great. Good ideas. All right. Well, I want to thank our participants for hanging in there with us. We have quite a few who stayed on through this whole webinar, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us. For those of you who are interested in language funding, as I mentioned earlier, the funding opportunity announcements are available through grants.gov for the Language Preservation and Maintenance Program, as well as the Esther Martinez initiative. For those of you who were not able to download the handout, please email me, and my email address is on the email you were sent earlier by GoToWebinar to give you the link to get on this webinar. And as far as the recording goes, we do have to take the recording and make it accessible for people with disabilities, and so therefore it'll probably be about two weeks before it is available. If you go to the ANA webpage, go to the Resources tab, and in the search box type in webinars. It will come up there once it's been posted. Okie doke, folks. Well, thank you again for joining the webinar. Have a good rest of the afternoon. Take care. Bye, everyone. Thank you again to our presenters. Bye-bye.
Bye.